From his undefeated streak to his numerous title defenses, Khabib Nurmagomedov has done it all, except face off against Jon Jones. The fight that didn't happen continues to be debated today. More than the matches that took place, it's the ones that got away which prove really challenging to talk about. Yet you, I, and fans around the world continue to hint at a possible outcome between Bones and the Eagle. Granted, such a fight doesn't seem possible given that Khabib is retired now, plus Jones has now moved on to the heavyweight division. But even when both fighters were active, there was too big a physical gap for it to take place. On one hand, Khabib stood at 5 foot 9 inches tall with an average weight of 155 pounds. On the other, Bones was bigger by all physical standards. Needless to say, he would tower over any lightweight. Even if you excused his reach advantage over Khabib, the two biggest UFC superstars of this generation just didn't match up ever. I think if there was ever a chance they could manage to book a match like this, Dana White for one would have found a way. Now, in the absence of an actual fight, there is no sure shot way of proving which camp is right, so you've got to make do with speculations. Even those are so exciting that you routinely see proper media flare-ups over who the greatest of all time is. So who's really a GOAT? I know that the word's been thrown around more frequently in recent history, though going by consistency, the answer's really got to be the former lightweight champ. Minor challenges aside, which he conquered to always come back stronger, the Dagestani wrestler improved with each bout and sealed his status in his final title defense against Justin Gaethje. The highlight got taken down in just 2 short rounds, ending in a submission win. With 29 wins and 0 losses, I think that's as close to perfect as statistically possible. The fact that he retired right there and then, after the cleanest of victories in front of his opponent's whole corner, did raise more questions than it answered. Like, what more he could have done, or how much better he would have been had he stuck to it. Just 32 years of age at that point, Khabib has himself admitted he was at his peak physique, but talking about what might or might not have happened doesn't help, does it? Focusing on the actual career stats is the only way to make an assessment. Now, one camp could bring up the degree of personal challenges Jones faced that Khabib didn't, or the level of so-called easy fighters that the Eagle chose to fight, and how Jones didn't pick them as easy. Firstly, about their personal challenges, honestly, neither you nor I know much about them and can't evaluate. Secondly, even an elite striker like Conor looked average at best against Nurmagomedov. How they fight in the ring is what matters at the end of the day. After all, trading opinions on this issue could go on till the end of time, but thanks to the pound-for-pound rankings, you don't need to. That status rests with Khabib, who retired after beating down any challenger in his active fighting career. If his lightweight title was the crown, then the pound-for-pound ranking was the crown jewel. Both fighters were fighting to keep their kingdom over their divisions and also seize the top spot at this point. Both were talented and altogether stunning. Still, there can only be one greatest. So, when he took his spot from Jones himself, he won that prize fair and square. Now, you may say the rankings don't tell the whole story, but the truth is, even the GOAT couldn't tell you what worked and what didn't. It's just persistence, hard work, effort, and patience that keep a champion going, despite the frequent challenges, both inside and outside the octagon. Ultimately, that's what it means to be a champ, to face the toughest opposition and prove yourself to be the toughest of the lot. In this, there's only one victor, Khabib. In my years of watching him, it was clear that he didn't let any opponent pressurize him, refusing to be railroaded by his competition's kicks like Edson Barboza or their antics like the Notorious with the bus incident. The man who famously wrestled bears when growing up didn't give his rivals the satisfaction of seeing him bleed ever. Retiring literally on the top of his game was the best way to finish off a great run with ups and downs. But most importantly, he stayed consistent and worked hard in one weight class. I can't say the same about Jones. Sure, it's cool that he moved to heavyweight, but it would have been better if he stayed a light heavyweight. Plus, he was inactive for 3 years. As for Khabib, focusing on one style paid off for him. The 2-time combat sambo world champ kept it focused on the ground game, becoming a takedown and and submission artist, not to mention a 2-division champ. But if being champ was the only criteria for all-time greatness, then Daniel Cormier and Henry Cejudo would also be eligible. Don't get me wrong, they're all great fighters in their own right, but the differences between them and Khabib is in their pro record, because Khabib's the only one who doesn't need to count his losses. There simply are none. 13-0 in the UFC and 29-0 in his pro career. The facts speak for themselves. Apart from the Tony Ferguson fight, which didn't take place for reasons outside his control, no one from his division could take him down. Fewer could hold their own for longer than a couple of rounds even. Jones himself has respected the undefeated former lightweight champ for his meticulous work in each of his fights. He said he can really respect Khabib for his attitude and skills. As a fighter inside and outside the ring, this endorsement rings true for his Dagestani colleague all his career. But Bones also added that his 15 title fights simply sweep away Khabib's 4 title defenses. It's a valid claim, but keep in mind that Jones got one of his title fights wins overturned after a drug test was done. This single seed soured his whole career record. By all accounts, proven, tested, and well documented, the greatest fighter from Ohio had a patchy history with legality. It always raised questions about just how clean of a fighter he really was. You can be fierce, ruthless, aggressive. Yes, Khabib was all of those, but he also kept a tight ship with no complaints on record, like illegal eye pokes, 12-6 elbows, or testing for banned substances. In other words, Khabib wasn't Jones, and that goes a long way toward his dibs on being the greater champ. For both Joe Rogan and Israel Adesanya, keeping a spotless record while avoiding dirty tricks is true for Khabib. In the same conversation, perhaps only one other fighter can hold his head up high, and according to Joe, that's Demetrius Johnson. The Mighty Mouse being compared to Khabib as the greatest flyweight says a lot as to how not being dirty is so elite. Yes, it's difficult, but it's also insanely rewarding. Even if Jon Jones had as spotless a fighting history as Khabib though, the difference in their wins was too huge. On one hand, Joe Rogan gave his verdict on the Eagle, who dominated everybody and no one was even close. About the light heavyweight and current heavyweight champ though, Rogan agreed that he had a couple of split decisions. So while Khabib was riding a consistently high wave of accolades, he also had a decent and respectful perception in public for the most part. In contrast with Jones, everything that could have gone wrong outside of the octagon did, in fact, go wrong. That's all on how UFC experts justify Khabib as a greater champion than Jones.